Hey everyone, today we shall take a look at inequalities. The learning outcomes of our lesson. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe what an inequality is. You will be able to use correct notation to show an inequality on a number line. You will correctly write an inequality. Let's go to learning outcome 1 and define what an inequality is. An inequality is like an equation, but instead of an equal sign, it has one of these signs. One of the signs is less than, another one is less or equal to, less than or equal to, another one is greater than or greater than or equal to. If it has one of those signs, then it is an inequality. Let us see whether we can read inequalities having seen the signs used. The signs are among these ones. This one is less than, this one is less than or equal to, this one is greater than, this one is greater than or equal to. Now let's see whether if we can read the following inequalities. The first one is that, you can pause the video and you read. It is read as n is greater than 0 but less than 3. The second one is that one, is read as n is greater than or equal to -5 but less than 2. The third one is read as n is greater than or equal to -7 but less than or equal to -1. Then lastly we have that read as x is greater than 9. Now let us see how can we represent inequalities on a number line. When we graph an inequality on a number line, we use open and closed circles to represent the number. If we have these signs less than or greater than, we plot an open circle. Hope you're asking yourself, where do we plot? We shall see. Then when we have one of these symbols less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we plot a closed circle. Let's quickly take a look at examples. One of the example here, we are required to plot this x is greater or equal to -2. We are required to represent it on a number line. And that is my number line. Now, when you look at this, it is greater or equal to. We said we plot a closed circle. X is greater or equal to -2. It means -2 is inclusive. If we are to write the values of x, the solution set -2 is inclusive. That is what we mean why we use a closed circle. It implies that -2 is inclusive. Then greater or equal to, of course, for the values on the right are greater. Then I draw my line. You can see it has the arrow showing that the values are continuing. Then another example here is x is greater than -4. We are required to represent this on the number line. The number line, I've sketched it, is here. Now, greater than, here we use an open circle, greater than -4. This one simply means -4 is exclusive. You can see that greater than -4, values starting from here after -4 to this side are all greater than -4. They satisfy the values of x. Then another example here is this. -2 is less than x, less or equal to 7. You can see we have less. Here we are to use an open, then unclosed circle. Now, less or equal to -7. -7 is included in the solution set for x. Then -2 is excluded since -2 is less than x. Then I join these two lines. What I've sketched, I've represented this inequality on a number line. Then there is another example here. W is less than 3. You can see the symbol used. As we've seen on our note here, when we have these two symbols, we use an open circle. When we have this, we use a closed circle. Now, we were on this. Now we have this symbol. We are meant to use an open circle. W is less than 3. 3 is there. 3 is exclusive. W is less. For values on this side are less. I just draw my line to show that W is less than 3. All values here, even -1 million, is less than 3. That arrow shows that the values are continuing. It is infinite. Then another example here, we are required to represent h is less or equal to 8 on a number line, which is already here. Now you can look at the symbol. It tells you which circle are you going to use, open or closed. Here we are using a closed circle depending on the note. Depending on the note that we have here, we have less or equal to, we use a closed circle. Less or equal to -8 to 8. 8 is there, it is included, meaning h can be 8 or less. Then I indicate the solution set. I indicate my inequality on a number line like this to show that the values of x are not limited to -10, but other values are there. So long as any value less than 8 or equal to is in the solution set for x. If we can check our progress on our learning outcomes, we've been able to describe what an inequality is. We've been able to use correct notation to show an inequality on a number line. Now we are remaining with the last one, to correctly write an inequality. Let's quickly look at examples writing inequalities. I need to remind you that whenever you have these two symbols, you use an open circle, and whenever you have these two, you use a closed circle. Now there is an example here. We are required to write an inequality from the number line here. Now you can see here it is open, -1, it is open, then this one is closed. You can use any unknown. Let me use n. I have -1. You can see it is not included in the set. It is less than the value. Then 8 is included. I'll record my value as -1 is less than n, but n is less or equal to 8. Then another example, write down the inequality that you think is represented by each diagram below. Feel free to pause and you first think of the solution and then you check. We are on question A. You can see it is -4 but with an open circle. What does it mean? If we read it is x less than 4. When we go to B, there is an open circle, but the values are starting from 2 to that direction, but with an open circle on top of 2. It means I will use x cloud. X is greater than 2. If we go to C, you can see there is a closed circle on top of -1. Therefore, we can say x is less or equal to -1. When we go to D, there is 5, and the values are starting from 5 onwards, and there is a closed circle. We can read it as x is greater or equal to 5. And we go to E, there is a closed circle on top of -1 and an open circle on top of -2, and they are joined by a line. We can read as -1 is less or equal to x, but x is less than 2, like that. If you have that one, then you've got it right. Then we go to F. You can also pause and you try to write the value of x here. And you can see, now this question is tricky. It wants to read it, you first interpret the scale. Some will say -6, some will say 10. No, it is here in the middle. It will be -4 is less than x, but x is less or equal to 8. If you have this one, you're right. And then lastly, for each of the following diagrams, write down an appropriate inequality to describe it. You will use one of these inequalities to describe the diagram, what is being depicted in the diagram here. One of the first diagram, we have this, and we are using n. We want to bring in any symbol. We are choosing from these two: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. We are choosing from those two to satisfy here. Hope you have yours in mind. Now when you look at this, there is a closed circle on top of 5, and the values are increasing, meaning you can say n is greater or equal to 5. Then next, the second diagram here, we have an open circle on top of 5, and then the values are decreasing. You can say n is less than 5. Then diagram 3, we have an open circle on top of -4, and the values are increasing. You can say n is greater than -4. Then when you look at this, you need to read the scale. We have -2 to -4, meaning we are jumping something, 2 to 2, interval of 2, meaning in here there is -3. Then there is a closed circle on top of -3, and the values are decreasing. You can say n is less or equal to -3. There is also diagram 7. You can see, you also need to read the scale. You have 8, then 10, -10, 0, 2, 4, 6, an interval of 2. Therefore this one is -9 here. There is a closed circle on top of -9 and an open circle on top of 0. We can read it as -9 is less or equal to n. I can pick some ink and refill. -9 is less or equal to n, but n is less than 0. Then we continue. Now if we can check our progress, we've been able to describe what an inequality is. We've been able to use the correct notation to represent an inequality on a number line, and we've been able to correctly write an inequality. We've achieved our learning outcomes, the 3 of them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe so that you won't miss any of my videos.